is award-winning actor-filmmaker Andrea Stefancikova, and she's here today to talk about her award-winning career, what is next for her, her leading role or starring role in Amercian Badger. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be talking to you.
You have an impressive resume. You were a former international model. You are a role model. And what else? Were you a musician too? Or are you a musician?
You know, I'm not a musician, but I was, just not this year because of COVID. I am in a choir, a Marcus Mosley chorale. Yeah, it's a gospel choir. Do you know them?
No.
Have you heard of them?
No, but I
Oh my God, they're amazing. And we have a pianist and an amazing conductor and a really wonderful group of people. And it's a gospel choir. So, I mean, I play piano as well, but I am not a musician otherwise, but I was always very musically inclined because I started as a dancer, and I think we just have the music and arts in the family. So maybe that's why.
Yes, because, you know, do you find music has helped with your career? Like for breathing, right? You have to sing from your diaphragm and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it does. I think for actors or whoever is, you know, working in this medium and speaks a lot, I think singing really helps because you know where to draw the breath from, and your voice is also much more grounded. So you're really speaking with you know how to speak with your full voice, and also you know how to save it so you don't lose it when you're screaming. Or it's happened though, I've lost it before. There was a lot of screaming and then I just completely burnt my vocal cords. But yes, it's helped.
In Amercian Badger, you play a call girl, right? And I mean, you play such heavy roles like Promiseland. You played Velvet. How do you get the such experience? Like how? Because these roles are so deep. How do you get into character?
It's a good question. I usually really have to, something has to click with me, you know, in the script. And it's also a challenge. I'm like, okay, if I do something like this, I have to really, really make this character, I have to humanize her as much as possible. And I have to destigmatize her as well, because, you know, these kind of roles these kind of women are very stigmatized in our society. So it's a bit of a process. I kind of first work with the script alone and just really get the story. Then I usually create a bio for the character, and I also draw from my own life. And, you know, so you could say it's a good thing or a bad thing, but in this case, it made it easier for me because I had places to go to, and I kind of stayed in character throughout the entire filming. So, which was a little bit taxing on me after because I had to go through counseling to get out of the character. But wow. It really made her, she doesn't snap out at all. She's in that zone for the entire movie, and you can tell it's just because there was a review and they said, we don't know if, you know, if she's really like that, or there was something really interesting somebody wrote, which that it was so authentic that the reviewer was confused. He's like, I don't know if she was acting or how she worked on it, but it was very seamless. They said I was really happy to read that, you know, very, you know, nuanced. And I was like, okay, that's great. You know? Yeah.
Can you tell us, you know, the team
what's it like with the team? Well, these two, like Debris, you know, it's a sci-fi TV show. Joel Wyman is very known for, you know, he's known for Fringe and Almost Human. And so he's very known and respected in the sci-fi world. So for me, that was the first sci-fi I've done. And I felt so excited because of the cast and because it was a big studio. It's a very different experience, where Amercian Badger, it was a Canadian indie film, a huge crew, probably if not bigger than it was a very big crew, and the huge stunts, like 120 stunt performers. And it was really a lot of the people that I know from the TV world came out to work. So we had the same people, and they kind of came out to work on an indie, because there's a real support from local filmmakers. It's actually quite beautiful, and everyone loves working on these films. They pay less, but we do more of an art, and it's in our control, in our hands. So it's a very collaborative process, where when you're on a scripted television show that's run by a studio, it's a different experience. Both really great. If American Badger was shot before COVID, or before the pandemic, so in that aspect that was easier. It took a long time, so like we shot over periods of time, and we actually had months off between some reshoots because of something happened with one of the key people, but that's okay. It worked. It's just hard to have a big break like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, but with Debris, that was just now. I mean, I came in, my character was introduced on set, in January, and that was during the pandemic. And I've already worked, so I kind of had an idea of how it works. But I think that the overall atmosphere is a little bit different, because there is just a little kind of hint of, I don't know if it's stress or pressure or fear that someone's going to get sick, or there is just, we're working during a pandemic, but everyone's respecting it. Everyone's wearing masks. We're getting tested every other day. Basically, everyone is. And there's still distancing. So what I didn't like is that I don't recognize, sometimes it's hard to know who's who, because we don't really eat together like we normally do at lunch. Like we could eat, everyone has to wear a mask, and then it's all boxed, and everyone kind of goes, separately. So that was very different. But then the actors that I got to work with, when I saw who's behind, and the directors, I was so excited, because I'm like, for instance, Norbert Leo Butz, who, basically all of my scenes, almost all of my scenes, not everything's been aired yet, but they're with him, and I know him from Bloodline. It's a Netflix TV show, and I also know that he's an award-winning New York stage actor. So I was like, oh my God, I get to work with somebody like that. And he was such a great person, just so down to earth and friendly, and really, he wanted to work on the scenes and run them, talk about it. And also Joel Wyman, they were always on a call. We could always call them when something wasn't clear. We could talk about it. So there was that kind of collaboration. Then, of course, if they made some changes, the studio oversees everything. But they were really, really, it was great. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I was nervous. Yes, I always get nervous when I come to set. Just before I work, it's kind of like I have butterflies. It's like an excitement.
You are a role model. I mean, you are a survivor. You are for empowerment, and you've gone through, seeking counseling. And can you tell us a bit more? I understand you were kidnapped in Istanbul. Is that right? And can you share that?
Yeah, I was. It's a crazy story. I can share a little bit about it, because it's such a big story. But really, it was. I was sent there. I remember my agent from Milan was saying I should just go home. It's July. August is kind of it's a month off in Italy as well. It's just a really slow month. Or if you really want to work, you can go to Istanbul. It's kind of going to get busier, like August, September. I can't remember what they were shooting exactly, jeans and pajamas or something. I don't remember, but like it was busy there. And I said, no, I want to go out. I want to work. I don't want to go back to Vancouver. I want to go. And there was through the agency, I think he was one of the owners. He was mixed up. I don't think he functions anymore, but he was mixed up in like the human trafficking. He was a trafficker. He was a human trafficker. And I remember one of the agents from Italy told me, and it was so weird. I should have just listened to my instinct. He said, just do what you have to do. You're going to have to be at home. They're going to lock you in a room. They're going to drive you around to castings. I was like, what? Lock me? And they said, this agency is very strange, but just do that. Don't do anything else. If someone offers you something else, just don't do it, because you're the type that's going to get into trouble. And I was like, I told my mom, and she's like, please come home. Like, this is crazy. It's just that you're going to get kidnapped or something. Like, it was a joke. She said it as a joke. And then, and then there was one person through the agency that just kind of like, I remember when I first arrived and he asked, I had to go for dinner with him. I didn't want to, but he picked me up from the apartment and said, you have to go. And he started saying these really, really weird things to me. Just kind of like, I saw your Polaroid pictures and you're not really like, I don't know if you're going to work a lot, but I have like other clients that can pay a lot more money for you. And just asking me really personal questions like, are you a virgin? Like all these weird things. And I was really uncomfortable. And I remember but I was so curious. I was like, oh, what's he going to do? Like, what can he do? Like, I'm going to have some adventure. But I was just I don't understand why, like, a normal person will be like, okay, red flag, huge. I want to go back right away. And I went back to the room, and I remember I called my agent in Italy, and I was like, hey, this is really weird. And he says, well, you're not supposed to be speaking with anybody else. Just stay away from that guy. And as if they knew who it was. And then he was the one who kidnapped me, like took me in a van. And yeah, it's just, I don't know how long. It was not that long, but I had to run away. And the way I ran away was just, it's just not beautiful, because when you have to run away and then when someone tells you that, because what he said is that he sold me basically, and I have to go, that I'm going to have to be picked up by this man and I'm going to go on his plane with him. I don't know what country, but that I was purchased, and I was like 19 or something. So like I was not that young, but I was really young still. And and I remember just him kind of telling me that, and I was just, because it was so surreal and I don't know where I was, where he took me or what was going on. And then I've seen, he's just, it was just, when I had to run away, I had to do anything that I could to run away. So I had to hurt him. It's like I wrote a memoir on it, and I never published, but it's a really big part of the book. And I really go into details, and because I was so afraid, because he used to call my parents here and threaten them. And I didn't know if should I involve the police or, I just didn't know at that time. And then he stopped. Then he stopped threatening, because I went really quiet, and I never went back to Italy because I was supposed to come back. And I remember when I ran away, and when I was at the airport, and I called my dad, and I was like, I said what happened, and I said I'm at the airport, like, just, it was just so crazy. And I don't even, like, I hardly recall what I told my dad, but I know that they paid for the flight. And I went back to Italy, just back to my apartment to get my things, because like Italy was, it was safe. And his men like followed, they all ran into the airport. But once I was past the gate, they couldn't go there. I know, so crazy. And then when I was back in Italy, I went to the agency, but I was so shaken and I was in such shock that I just kind of talked about it. And it's just so dirty. There's just, the agency owner, he just said, that you think anyone's going to believe you? Look at you. And I was like, well, you had to know. And he says, we told you to stay in the room. You're not supposed to do anything else. And he had to do it. And then he says, look, like you're only, 5'7" something. I told you that there's another, you can work in a different category. Like you can do erotica or whatever, porn or whatever he was hinting. And he's like, think about it. You can make a lot of money. I'm going to make you so famous. I have girls who went for modeling and they're so happy. And I was just like, so I never went back. That's the only, I just never went back, never spoke to the guy, never reported him. And I probably could have, because, there are things that are going on. And I'm sure many people know about it. I don't know how it's now. I think it's changed a lot, but it used to be a lot different back then. There was like no Instagram, none of this. Everything was like Polaroids, real camera still. There was, I think, yeah, everything was like shot on film. It was just a different era. Like his behavior would never pass now, and I'd never take it. I was just so young. So because of all that, and then once I came back, I think just everything that's happened, it's really kind of affected me later, once I came out of that shock. And then I was just seeking dangerous things even here. And that included drugs, of course. That was already part of the whole thing. I kind of struggled on and off with it from really like early teens. Even here, when school wasn't going well, I didn't have friends, so I found older friends, and I was dancing at the Harbor Dance Center downtown. We were living in North Van, and I would just meet kids downtown East Side, just not good, but they were nice to me. So yeah, I just took kind of not an ideal route, let's say, but I went through it in my own way, and I learned. It's lots of falls, and it's lots of heartache, and very painful for me too, but for my parents, for my family. But I came out of it eventually. I went through the counseling. I think it was part of family services here, really good service they offer. There's like a victims kind of department, and then it's government funded, and I think I got almost 2 years, like once a week with a counselor, and she was wonderful, and I worked through everything, and I worked really hard. And then she really got me ready, because I kind of accepted everything, how it happened, forgave people. And she got me ready to really get sober after that, because I got sober right after. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You are a testimonial. You are indeed a testimonial, and you're a survivor. And I'm so appreciative you sharing your story, and it makes people strong. It's like telling your story gives others hope and to be strong too. And you are a successful actor and filmmaker, and it's just wonderful. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, I don't know. I just love what I do. And I think I just want to tell people that if they have something that they really like, I think it's really worth pursuing and not giving up, even when things get hard. Because when you put your energy and when you pursue something for such a long time and you put work into it, one way or the other, it pays off and it comes back. And I think that, the downs, it's part of it. And if you just kind of take it as a lesson, it kind of gives you fuel to continue and to be better. And there's a really beautiful support around. You just have to be open to it and see it and realize like people are really supportive actually, and people want to help. And if you don't know something, ask. I learned that it's not embarrassing to ask. The worst thing is sometimes people say don't know how to help you, but you can almost get any answer that you want if you just ask. Yes. Which is so crazy,
Yes, it's not that. Yeah, just ask. People want to help, right? And if people want to follow you, where can they go? Like, you got socials, right? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Or Twitter, or if they're young actors, they can come to my class at Shoreline. But I'm usually pretty responsive. Like, people have contacted me about sobriety oftentimes, and I really make sure I always get back to them, and I've spoken to people, and it makes me happy to share my story, because that's what it's all about. It's you kind of share your story, and someone who's struggling, they will always find something that sits with them. It doesn't have to be everything, but it's the whole principle of the AA meetings or NA meetings. You go in there and then you feel like, I don't belong. It's so silly. But there's always something that someone will say, and you'll be like, okay, I was supposed to be here and hear just that one thing that the person said,
Yes, that's wonderful. I mean, it was such a pleasure interviewing you, or chatting with you, I should say, because it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like such a chat, and I really...
It was such a nice conversation, because you're so kind and interested,
I love I love people. I like, it's all about you. And I wanted to thank you so much for your time. I'd like to invite you back in 6 months to do another interview, if that's
Oh my
okay.
God, I would love that. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. And then I'll be able to tell you what's going on, what's, because there'll be new things by then for sure.